Europe is gripped by fears of a war after Russia ordered its troops to march into Ukraine. Here to talk to us about a very tense situation is Ukraine's ambassador to Singapore, Katerina Zelenko. Welcome, Ambassador, and thank you for taking questions from the Straits Times. I wanted to start by asking you about an issue related to Ukraine that seems to be on top of Russian President Vladimir Putin's mind. Now, in a speech on Monday, when he announced that Russia was recognizing the two breakaway provinces of Ukraine as independent republics, Mr. Putin claimed, and I will quote him, Ukraine for us is not just a neighboring country. It is an integral part of our own history, culture, and spiritual space. Ambassador, I'd like to understand the basis of this statement from Mr. Putin. To what extent is he right? Are those historical facts? And what is the view in Ukraine about this shared history between Ukraine and Russia that he's alluding to?
In Ukraine, we say those who don't know their past have no future. Ukrainians know their past and care about their future. Therefore, we examine and analyze our own history based on truth, verified facts, and historical events. There is no denying the fact that our common history includes many illustrative chapters. I'll bring you one example. 1994, the Budapest Memorandum, which was signed, according to which Ukraine gave up its nuclear weapons in exchange for the security guarantees of other countries. Russia was among them. 20 years later, the guarantor country occupied Crimea and instigated the war in Donbass. You are making a very good point, referring to the Russian recognition of the so-called proxy republics in the temporarily occupied territories of Ukraine. This is a clear breach of Minsk Agreement, but it's also a violation of basic principles of the international law enshrined in the UN Charter. And we will spare no diplomatic effort to achieve a political settlement. Luckily, Ukrainians managed to safeguard their national identity and made their own choice to become a member of the EU and NATO. So there is still a distinction between the facts and others' misreading of the history.
But would you say, to what extent do facts support what Mr. Putin says? Basically, he's saying that Russia and Ukraine share that history to the extent that Russia at least tends to view Ukraine as kin or, very close to it, has some rights to it. How is that aspect of it viewed in Ukraine?
In Ukraine, we remain committed to our own choice, which we made. And as I already mentioned, Ukrainians know very well about their past, and they know that there cannot be any trust in the words of the country, which violated the international law and never lived up to its commitments. That is why we just know that we need to protect our country, our territorial integrity, our state sovereignty. And at the end of the day, we are protecting our European future for the sake of the new generation of Ukrainians to come.
So you think there is no space for that, no argument to be made about any shared history at all?
Well, we can definitely say that there have been different episodes in our history where we can say that Ukrainians have learned from their past, and therefore that is something which is the most important part of it. And I think we really need to refer to the facts and to the principles which lie in the core of the modern being of all civilized nations. It means that every country needs to respect the territorial integrity and sovereignty of other countries, and of course, it needs to respect the choice which other sovereign countries made, because ultimately it is about our future and it is about the way we are heading for the sake of our country and for the sake of Europe.
So, if I may put it this way, it is the case that Ukraine and Russia perhaps have had that shared history and culture, but the future is for them to carve out, and they have to define their own space. Perhaps that's one way that I understand it based on what you just said. I also wanted to ask you, the two republics that which Mr. Putin has given them the status of republics, but these are, from Ukraine's point of view, rebel-controlled areas since at least 2014. How important are these two areas, Donetsk and Luhansk, to Ukraine and to its economy?
It is important to understand that Ukrainian citizens reside on both sides of the contact line. And this is our ultimate goal and our absolute priority, to make sure that there is peace, security, and well-being of these people. That is why we do anything possible on the path of diplomacy in order to reach sustainable progress in ensuring that in every corner of Ukraine there is stability, and people can be sure that their children, their families can feel safe, and there is a ceasefire, and there is a clear prospect for their development and for their establishing their lives in the way they want to.
Fair point, Ambassador. We've read about these two areas as being quite critical to Ukraine's economy, in the sense that they form a part of Ukraine's industrial heartland. Is that accurate?
Well, we only need to imagine that these territories have been under fire since 2014. So we can only imagine the precarious situation with infrastructure, with logistics, with water supplies. This is everything which must be done as soon as we achieve the peace and the sustainable ceasefire.
You talked about Ukraine, the mood back home. Can you tell us, what is it now? Is there nervousness?
In Ukraine, everyone is aware of the existing threats. Everyone knows what the enemy is capable of. As I already mentioned, we've been at war since 2014. However, in the current tense situation, Ukrainian citizens and business entities remain calm and continue to perform their daily activities. Due to the crisis management efforts by Ukraine's government, and thanks to the increased support from our partners, the situation is now under control. And in fact, you will not feel a lot of panic or anxiety among people in Ukraine, because they know that we need to stay vigilant. And this is something which unites the nation.
So it's vigilance more than nervousness at this point.
Yes, I would say yes.
But do you feel that Ukraine, does Ukraine feel that the pushback from the US and Europe has been strong enough? Because initially there seemed to be some hesitation in even characterizing this as an invasion. Although you say Russia has already been in Ukraine since 2014, when it sent troops and occupied Crimea. So West is now describing what's going on, the Russian moves, as the beginning of an invasion. Are you satisfied with that assessment?
It is important to say that we remain committed to the diplomatic solution and de-escalation based on the international law, based on respect of Ukraine's sovereignty and its territorial integrity in the internationally recognized borders. And in this regard, we appreciate deterrence measures, including sanctions provided by our partners to prevent the new wave of escalation. As I already said, due to the support of our partners, it has been possible to take the situation under control. And of course, it is important to say that Ukraine is a peaceful nation, and as a peaceful nation, we are committed to working together with our partners who have already delivered a lot, but we know that we still need to pursue the way of diplomacy in order to bring Russia back from the brink, because it is now crucial to ensure not only the safety and security of the people on the ground, but also to make sure that the whole security architecture of Europe is safe and secure.
So, would you say that in terms of what's been announced so far, and you referenced the sanctions, and Mr. Biden in his speech also spoke about mobilizing and deploying some military troops within Europe. So, do you think the sum of those measures at the moment is enough to stop Mr. Putin in his tracks?
I think that the further steps by Russia will, to some extent, depend on how the world reacts. And we have already seen the first reaction from our partners. We have seen the decision of Germany to suspend the certification of the pipeline project Nord Stream 2. It means that our partners are really committed to making tough decisions in these difficult times. It is crucial, we appreciate it, and we keep on working in order to achieve more progress. Our ultimate goal is peace, de-escalation, withdrawal of Russian troops, stability and safety of Ukraine and Europe.
Draw your attention to what Mr. Putin said Tuesday, overnight our time. So he said, and probably it's not the first time he said it, he said, Ukraine does not have the right to its sovereignty. And he has also suggested that the solution to this crisis is that Ukraine announce that it will not join NATO. Is that an acceptable stance for Ukraine?
You know, we speak a lot about the red lines for the Russian Federation, for its leadership. I think it is a high time to speak about the boundaries for Ukraine, for Europe, for free democracies, which may never be crossed. And if it comes to the protection of the state sovereignty and territorial integrity of Ukraine, as well as its European choice, then this is the issue or the red line which we will not allow to be crossed. That is why we keep working with our partners. We have set on diplomacy 24/7 in order to achieve peace and de-escalation based on the international law and with full regard to the internationally recognized borders of Ukraine.
Just to be sure I'm understanding this correctly, Ambassador, you're saying that this is like a red line, and a statement that Ukraine will not join NATO is like a red line, is like Ukraine's own red line?
You know, we are not prepared to allow others to say which direction we should move, which way we should head. This is a sovereign choice of every country. And you have probably seen many statements delivered yesterday by many nations across the globe who also stressed that the free choice of every sovereign state to choose the way they want to go and to choose the vision these countries want to provide for the future generations. This is something which is the good right of every country. And we also build on that because Ukraine, as a sovereign state, has already showcased that we only have the choice of protecting our country and of moving towards Europe. This is a choice which we have made. This is a choice for which we have been fighting since 2014. We have already lost 14,000 people in this war. And it means that our country is committed to fully achieving the peace, safety, and a safe future for the generations to come.
Let's talk about China's response so far. So, China is, of course, your largest trading partner. And in this UN Security Council debate that took place yesterday, China, of course, supported Ukraine's rights to its territorial integrity. And at the same time, it also spoke about Russia's legitimate security concerns. Was that disappointing to Ukraine?
As you already mentioned, my country is indeed an important trade partner of China. Of course, I have the privilege to serve as ambassador of Ukraine to Singapore, and I can say from my perspective, being here and speaking on behalf of all Ukrainians living on all continents across the globe, that every Ukrainian would appreciate, first of all, every nation's contribution to the diplomatic solution and de-escalation based on the international law. That's why we all need to understand that as the security situation remains tense, it is vital now to continue steadfast support of Ukraine. And that is what we would really appreciate as a contribution from every country on every continent of the world.
In that case, what reassurance or help would you like to see coming from China? Anything further?
I can speak as ambassador of Ukraine to Singapore. We have seen Singapore's position stated on its comments of the spokesperson. And this is something which is crucial now to see support for Ukraine's territorial integrity and state sovereignty. That's what we expect from every country, because this is a real contribution to the diplomatic solution and de-escalation. Today, we see that everything which is going on in Ukraine and around Ukraine is not only about Ukraine's territorial integrity and sovereignty, because the threat to one imperils the security of all. And we need to realize that in our globalized world, it is important to protect the principles of international law. This is my position.
And I think one of the strongest signals of support, and you referenced it earlier, is what has come from Germany, in that it has frozen the Nord Stream 2 project. How does Ukraine look at that?
We welcome the decision of the German government to suspend the certification process of Nord Stream 2. We realize that difficult times demand tough decisions, and this is a clear example of leadership and understanding that it is not only about Ukraine, it is about the energy security of Europe. And of course, if we speak about energy security, it is also critical to Ukraine's independence. That's why, together with our partners, we work on the ways how to get reliable sources of energy, but also to efficiently produce affordable energy with special focus on sustainability. And we all have seen that achieving long-term energy security in Europe will rely on success in Ukraine as an important player within European energy network. Reliable transit of natural gas for Ukraine is essential for European energy security.
Am I right, Ambassador, that Ukraine does import gas itself, although it does have enormous gas reserves in itself? I believe the second largest perhaps after Russia on Europe. So I was wondering, are there any plans to tap that? Are you in talks with any country to explore, perhaps with China?
Of course, you're absolutely right. We need to take care of it. And I can inform you that in Ukraine, the energy strategy for the period until 2035 has been hammered out, which foresees, for example, optimization and innovative development of energy infrastructure and ensuring sustainable development of the sector in the long run. We also need to take into account that EU integration is one of the main priorities of Ukrainian foreign policy. And this energy strategy foresees also adoption of relevant legislation to integrate the European network of transmission system operators for electricity under the third energy package of the EU. So we have already taken steps and measures aimed at securing our energy independence, because we all have seen that the energy independence and the sovereignty of many European states are sometimes indivisible.
Exactly. So Russia, for instance, currently supplies over 40% of what European Union consumes for its fuel needs. Now, I was wondering, given Ukraine's own gas reserves, do you at some point envisage Ukraine as fulfilling the role that Russia has been carrying out? So Ukraine could become the prime source of gas to Europe?
We're anyway working on that. We realize that due to the unique geopolitical and geostrategic location of Ukraine, it is important to find a way to get reliable sources of energy, but also to efficiently produce affordable energy. And this is something which Ukraine is already doing. Anyway, we need to take other measures and move forward on this path. And there is still a long way. However, it is our utmost priority to work sustainably, reimagining the nature and its resources, so that we can really achieve a long-term energy security, not only for Ukraine, but also for Europe.
Right. In terms of economy, and given the war clouds on the horizon, or perhaps a long, dragged out, tense situation, are you bracing for a big shock on the Ukrainian economy? And would you expect Western Europe to also come out with aid on that front?
You're absolutely right. The non-military dimension of the foreign aggression can also cause significant harm to the Ukraine's economy. However, as I mentioned, our business entities remain calm, continue to perform their daily activities, and we remain in close contact with our partners to explore new ways of additional support to ensure stability in Ukraine and to strengthen its resilience. So this is something which is very important now, to stay calm, not to so panic, because we realize that it is also one of the factors which can undermine Ukraine's stability. We cannot allow it nowadays, as the situation is tense. That is why we really try to work with our partners in order to ensure and to get new options how to additionally support Ukraine, to give extended financial support for our country, so that it can really strengthen its resilience efforts. So we are on a good path.
So at this point, there are no large concerns about, say, things like food and essential supplies um, within Ukraine. I mean, at times like this, quite often there's a run on banks, and people try to hoard. So, are you seeing situation of that sort in Ukraine?
Of course, we are not downplaying the risks. We realize that it would only play in the hands of the aggressor country if Ukraine is destabilized. Economic stability is one of the most important pillars in this regard. That's why it is really our utmost priority, along with the security issues, to provide economic stability for the country. Yes, of course, it is a hard time for everyone. But as I told you, we see all business entities to work as usual. And I would not say that situation is like the stance of panic. No, it is not. It is more a situation in which the country, which has been attacked by the neighboring state, is really trying to strengthen its resilience and to find every possible way to remain strong. And of course, it is not possible without support provided by our partners. We appreciate it greatly.
Is the coronavirus a concern in Ukraine at this time?
In fact, this is still a challenge. There is a high incidence of coronavirus infections in Ukraine. Vaccination is an urgent issue, and we are on the good way with that. At least half of the Ukrainian population has been already vaccinated. At the initial stage of vaccination, an active information campaign was underway to educate the population about the safety of vaccines and to persuade people to get vaccinated. So as for now, we see that we're on the good path, and we can ensure that very soon we will see not such high numbers of new infections in Ukraine. However, everyone should realize that the security and safety of one person is crucial to the safety of all people in its environment. We still understand that we need to move forward with the vaccination process, and there are already good prospects for achieving good results. So we are hardly working on it.
You must be in touch with, well, obviously your friends and family back home, and it's good you've told us that it's basically vigilance more than fear, which is being felt in Ukraine at this point. And here in Singapore as well, we have a thriving Ukrainian community. What is the mood like here? What are you hearing from them?
Ukrainians in Singapore are mostly younger people. We are in contact with them. We try to support each other in this challenging time. Of course, many of them are really worrying about their families, their loved ones back home. And we realized that we really need to keep calm and support Ukraine from Singapore. We try to be in contact on the social media to exchange views on what can be done and what is the mood. We have around 400 Ukrainians in Singapore currently, and I'm really proud of them. And they're being vocal about the need to support Ukraine in this challenging time.
So, what is your one message that you might wish them to hear from you?
I would say that the best message I can send is please keep calm and support Ukraine.
Okay, thank you, Ambassador. Thank you for sharing these thoughts with us. Please stay safe, and thank you once again.
Thank you. Thanks.